the GCs. Hold on.
You're cutting on and off, sir. Perhaps you can try again. Start speaking.
Okay, so but you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear
You
you.
can
We
hear
can
me.
hear you now, sir. Hello, Eagle and the others. We will be starting in a few minutes at about 7 p.m. sharp. So thank you all for coming up and perhaps message others to show. Ano yan, Alex? Introduction na ba tayo?
In 4 minutes. In 4 minutes. Okay. Just all right. So I think we can start. So hi everyone. Good evening. Good evening, and I hope you are having a great week so far. So welcome to our second episode, our second space. And just to give you a brief introduction of our group, it's called WPS Defenders. So it's your go to source for all things related to the West Philippine Sea. So I'm your host, Inform Page, and I have with me as co host is Ivan. So tonight, we're diving deep into the heart of the matter with our passionate team of WPS advocates. And our aim is to raise the awareness in advocating for our sovereignty in those parts of, well, in the West Philippine Sea. So, hello and thank you for joining us on this episode. So, I'm thrilled to be here. And today we have a special guest. So, very much excited to introduce to you our tonight's special guest. So, Ivan, can you give us a brief introduction to our special
Yes,
guest?
sir. Thank you,
Thank
Alex.
you.
So, good evening once again, everyone. Thank you for showing up to our space. Our great guest today is Commander Lysander Lay Aguilar or Dennis. He is a retired commander from the Naval Special Warfare Group of the Philippine Navy and founder of the West Philippines Citizens Movement. And he also serves as a technical advisor for various organizations, including Chief of the Philippine National Police and the Department of Justice. He holds multiple professorships in management, risk management, pandemic mitigation, health, safety, security, cooperation, social responsibility, English language in various institutions in the Philippines and abroad. And he also served as the technical advisor for the Secretary of Justice and as the commander of the Special Naval Warfare Group of the Philippine Navy. And notably, right now he's engaged in humanitarian efforts across Africa and Asia and is active in safety and security auditing. And he is also proficient in responding to various crisis management and, and events such as biological, chemical, explosive, nuclear, and pandemic threats. And right now he's a passionate defender and advocate of maritime sciences, dive tourism, uh, environmental education, and coffee farming. And in addition, he also serves as a director for operations at the West Philippine Sea. And when it comes to petroleum, oil, and gas explorations and security in the Philippines for the private sector. In his spare time, Sir Lay, actively conducts seminar on the West Philippine Sea around the country to build up advocacy and information concerning the matter. So, welcome to our space.
Well, that is quite big credit. So, welcome to the space, sir. Sir.
So, sir, perhaps we can start it off. One of the main things you mentioned earlier when me and you were talking with Alex was your early times during in the Philippine Navy. It says here, sir, you were part of the Philippine Navy. You graduated in the academy in in the late '80s, and that was certainly a great period of change when it comes to the geopolitics and the local politics and security of the region. So perhaps you can, give us a bit brief introduction of that. How was that like? I know some of the people here listening were wondering, how was it like being a young ensign of the Philippine Navy in the early 90s? Sir Lay.
He might be having some audio issues, but this is actually our. I just want to mention to the listeners. So, again, thank you so much for being with us on a Friday night. This is actually our third space. about West Philippine Sea. So we're very much passionate about anything related to the West Philippine Sea. So we are. I think Sir Lay, can you mute, or I'm not sure if you are
Okay, there
speaking,
we are.
but you
Like,
can
just
mute.
unmute yourself, sir. Unmute
Okay.
yourself, and then there we go.
So there you go. Ivan, can you
Can you?
ask the question to?
Yes,
Loud
sir.
and
So
clear.
perhaps I can repeat my
Okay.
question, sir. It says you mentioned, sir, that you were a graduate of the Philippine Military Academy during the late '80s, and certainly when you were serving with the Philippine Navy in the '90s and in the 2000s, this was a great period of change, both in the security and in the political situation here in the Philippines and abroad. How is it like, sir? Can you give us like some stories or like initial like thoughts on how it was like serving as a member of the Philippine Navy during the '90s, during that great period of change in our country's security?
Yes. Very briefly, let me go back. Let's say 1970s when I was in grade school, and then
Yes,
80s
sir.
high school. It was martial law during that time. But me personally, my family were not so much like on the sad side of martial law because my parents were all in government. My mother was a public school teacher, served the public school system for 33 years. My dad was in the Ministry of Health that time, or Department of Health. He's a sanitary inspector, and then all of us were in public school. So we went through martial law in a breeze. We were not involved in anything unusual or unnecessary. We don't do drugs. We don't do smoke. We don't do vices. We're not even in fraternities. We're the Boy Scouts because of our parents. All of us are in the scouting movement, so it runs in the family. 1981, 82, I was a first year college student, so I saw rallies, protests by our very active students, and then I went to the military academy. So it was a serene 4 years for us there in the academy, but what was happening outside the academy is another thing. So you got martial law, and then 1986, I remember there was a people's power activity in EDSA. So what happened there, it was significant because we didn't have any class. All the cadets were inside barracks. There were no classes that time until it happened February 24, 25, 26, and then it's over. Marcos has left, and then we got a new president, President Cory Aquino. And when we graduated in 1988, she was the one who gave our diplomas. Then immediately we went to our different institutions of learning, advanced learning. For the Air Force, they went to flying school in Batangas. For the Navy, we went to Cavite, Sangley Point, and to Fort Magsaysay. And for the PC, they went to their training. It was an interesting decade for us, fresh graduates from the academy, but I definitely know what I should be doing as a scholar of the people. I need to very well not to get involved in any coup d'etat. I didn't join the coup d'etat that time. I was aboard ship. I was Cebu Naval Forces 7, so we were busy doing until the Navy sectors and all the running after smugglers. So it was more of law enforcement. 88, 89, 90, then can you guys hear
Yes,
me?
sir. Fine.
Yes, yes. Can I ask a question, Ivan,
Yes.
Surley?
Uh,
Yeah, it's important.
The last one that happened was the disaster of Mount Pinatubo on June 15, 1991. 3 days after, I was already in Mount Pinatubo area because I was the team leader for the disaster response. I was sent by the Navy there, and we were working with other organizations. I remember I was working with the volunteers of De La Salle University from Taft Avenue. So we got all the ITAs out danger zone and brought them to Olongapo to Mayor Gordon that time.
you
Bingo.
mentioned for the Naval Special Operations Command, sir. What got you interested in that line of work? And what sort of action would you be expected to engage in when you're in that sort of line of work, the Naval Special Operations Command?
Yeah, I was more of the adventurous type of person. When I was in the Navy, we were being served. They were like prince and kings aboard the Philippine Navy ship. We got stewards and the coffee they serve as food. I said, this might not be the life for me. I don't like being served, so I said I talked to my commanding officer who later became because not all people are allowed to die during training, and it's a difficult training. Not all graduates of PMA go there. It's a difficult training. But I said I this is what I want to do.
And what would that
That's
involve,
it.
sir, being part of the naval special warfare? Well, can you give us, like, for in layman's terms, what would that mean?
Well, one you have to sign a document that you are volunteering. It means if something happens to you, you won't be suing the Navy. Two, you must be a pretty strong swimmer. Three, you're not afraid of the depths of the sea, and you like to run, swim, and jump.
I
That's
guess
what
I
we
can
do
rephrase my question.
during
I
almost
can
one.
rephrase my question. What responsibilities, what role does the Naval Special Warfare Command play in the overall structure of the Philippine Navy? What sorts of operations would be expected that you guys would be conducting?
One, we deal with terrorism. We take care of that problem. Two, we do special operations in the high seas where nobody else will be going except us. Number three, whatever the president says, and then we have to follow his instructions.
And I guess my last question before handing it off to Alex, it brings us right to the one of the pictures that you showed us earlier, which you said came from 1992. It was
Yes.
1992, and you were removing foreign
Yes.
markers in disputed waters over at the now called West Philippine Sea. Which markers were these, sir?
That's what I was demolishing with my teammates.
Who set up these markers with your team that your teammates took down in 1992?
Those markers were being set up all over the islands, islets, reefs. Whenever they are exposed to, whenever there's low tide and these sandbars and rocks and reefs are exposed because it's low tide. What foreigners do, whether they are Malaysian or Vietnamese, Indonesian, Taiwanese, Chinese from the mainland, they put markers on these uninhabited islands or geographical sites. Markers. So it's a muhon. And they have inscriptions and it says there, like the one there at Ayungin Shoal. And it says there 1992 with Chinese characters. And whenever we go out, I bring with us one of our scuba diving friends from the Palawan Filipino Chinese Chamber of Commerce, the late Philip Hong. He's from Hong Kong. So he said, Lay, this means that this place is the property of the People's Republic of China and it was placed here in 1992. I think it was placed there April of
So
1992.
even
So every time we go there, we look for these markets because they are all similar. They look like the obelisk of Dr. Jose Rizal in Luneta. That's how they look, but just smaller, like 5 feet high. So we destroy them using explosives. We have to remove them because they're within Philippine territories.
And I guess like even back then, this was in 1992, even before the Mischief Reef incident, when notoriously they occupied the Mischief Reef. Supposedly, it was supposed to be like fishermen. They slowly built
Yes,
up. Even before Mischief Reef, they were building up. They were building up positions.
yes, that's what the Chinese are doing there because that's their belief that they own it.
I get Alex.
So don't own it. It's owned by the Republic of the Philippines. Actually, we talked to this militia and officers aboard Chinese vessels. We talked to them through the
Mhm.
interpreter. We give them a lecture in geography. We tell them this is not yours. You are too far away from home. Are you lost? We tell them, are you lost? You know how to read the map that you're within Philippine territory. So these people, they will tell us no English. What do you mean no
And what
English?
were you
And we
seeing
know
back
that
then? Naturally, it wouldn't be these large 200-meter Chinese naval ships back then. Were you just seeing fishermen back then, or their maritime like militia? How was it?
the way they operate, the way the Chinese Navy operate, whether it's a Coast Guard, we all call them Chinese Navy because they all belong to the Navy, this Coast Guard and militia. These are paid and these are conscripts in the communist state Navy. So these are party members. They are very smart people. and they know what they are doing far away from home. The nearest property of China could be, or the biggest island nearest to them will be Hainan province. When you look at the map, it's still too far away. They are within the bakuran of the Philippines already. That's why in the 1990s, we are so diligent. Every week we are out at sea. Every week we are out at sea, and whenever we see again these markers, what we do, we just blow them up using C4 and dynamite. That's what we do. That's the job of naval pressure warfare.
Thirdly, with during your, am I clear?
Yeah,
Can you hear
go on.
me? Okay, during
Yeah.
your interaction with the Chinese militia or the Chinese Coast Guard, did they mention anything about 9 dash line or 10 dash line?
Oh no,
This was, yeah,
they
it
don't
was
exist.
okay during that time in the 90s.
No, they don't. They don't exist, and we
What
don't even
do you?
their announcements or declarations. We don't. I'm just wondering why now, from the year 2016 up to today, I am just wondering why
Mhm.
Philippine authorities and Philippine media are talking about the 9 dash line or the 10 dash line. I said, this is imaginary. Why do you even give importance to it?
I guess
Why do you spend time
that's a good contrast.
with it
Well,
when
how did we treat China before versus how we're treating now? Because I heard you several times in your spaces and in your tweets that you feel that we were far more assertive than in the 90s. In what way, sir?
can you repeat that? Sorry.
Yes, you mentioned, sir, that recently you felt that the Philippine media is focusing too much on the 9 dash line, on the 10 dash line. Are you saying that? Are you
Yes.
saying before this wasn't an issue and the Chinese didn't bring them up, that it was a new development in their talking points?
Indeed. This I was in Rwanda. I was in Rwanda when President Duterte was president, and earlier that President Noynoy Aquino was president. I I wasn't hearing about 9 dash line or 10 dash line, and then when I came over here to the Philippines, and maybe before the end of the term of President Duterte, this is when the 9 dash line came up. So I said, what does the Philippine government even uh, waste time talking about this 9 dash line or 10 dash line? Kaya tuloy what the Chinese are doing is they think that what they are saying about their imaginary 9 dash line or 10 dash line is acceptable to the Republic of the Philippines. So that's the dilemma there. We we should not be giving importance to these imaginary lines because no mariner in the world have ever experienced having a 9 dash line or a 10 dash line on international nautical charts on our maps that we use on the ships is non-existent. It is only a Chinese make-believe um, delineation of territories that we should not be bothering ourselves with.
Alex, perhaps you got a question.
Sir Lay, so during the times that you were patrolling the West Philippine Sea in the 90s,
Yeah.
can you describe the conditions you and your crew faced while you guys were patrolling our waters? Like, did you guys have the most modern equipment? Did you guys have patrol boats that were new and well equipped at that time? So what was it like back then patrolling our water?
That time we got the patrol gunboats. These of them are Filipino made, designed by a combination of foreign and Filipino naval engineers. But we also have the patrol craft escort. These are like corvettes. These were handovers from the United States Navy. The one that we were using was pretty much very good and fast. And also that time is we already have intelligence boats before. These are civilian-looking boats manned by Navy personnel. So pretty much we are using good equipment. It's not top of the line. It's not the newest one. We're still late by 20 years, but they pretty much for us what we do there at West Philippine Sea, and we call it that time Calayan Island Group or
Kalayaan chain of islands. We don't use the term then West Philippine Sea. We either use KIG or KCI.
And how do you compare the equipment now and the conditions now of the Philippine Navy, especially when navigating, in these tense political waters versus back then? Like, have you noticed any change, sir, in the last 21 years?
Yeah, they have better equipment now, more modern. Now they got missiles, so that's a good thing for us. But what we lacked before in terms of upgraded maritime vessels, the younger generations now, our juniors from the academy, are now benefiting from it. What we were asking for from the government during our time in the 1980s are now at the hands and at the control of our younger graduates. So they have better equipment, and we got more. We got more ships and boats now and aircraft than before. So the modernization scheme is working.
Yeah, when you were patrolling the waters, did you guys get to capture Chinese coast guards or Chinese militia? How was it like interacting with them? I mean, you heard in the stories you shared in the previous spaces that they offered you guys, American porn or
Yes.
American dollars. What
Well,
Chinese back then?
when we do patrols at what the team that goes out first will be the Naval Air Group. These are our this what you call the British-made twin engines, twin props aircraft. They do the long haul of aerial surveillance, and then when they see something, they report back to headquarters. We do a pre-departure conference, and we get our LOIs or our letters of instructions and final orders from the naval district commander, or sometimes it's the flag officer in command. And we had that experience. It's from the president himself summoning us to do something. So we get this info from either the Navy, Naval Air Group, or the Philippine Air Force reconnaissance aircrafts or jets. And then we do a conference at Western Command, and then we prepare our logistics, we prepare the troops, everybody knows what to expect, and then we go out to sea. When we go out to sea, we're there about like 1 week, 2 weeks, or even 3 weeks, or even 45 days. So what we do there, anything that we see on the radar, so the radar is a wider scope, so 5 miles, 10 nautical miles, 15 nautical miles from our territory. If our base will be Puerto Princesa, nobody should be there foreign in their 12 nautical miles or 12 kilometers municipal water. So that's clear. And then we go out. We go first to Rizal Reef Detachment. That's in southern Palawan, southwestern Palawan, in front of Quezon Municipality, Abon Caves of Palawan. So it should be clear also of foreign vessels. But sometimes as we go farther out from mainland Palawan, now you see more vessels, and that's where we do the challenge, or we call it the board and search. First, we talk to them over the radio on the marine band, channel 16. If they don't answer, then we sound off. It's called GQ, or General Quarters. It means man your battle station. So we uncovered the caliber 50 machine guns, the 30 caliber machine guns, the 30 millimeter Ermelich automatic gun from Germany. And yes, we got the Ermelich guns. These are made in Germany. These are like your, it's a single shot 30 millimeter gun, but it's a modern gun. So we're the only ones that have that. We can vaporize. We can vaporize any ship with that. These are big bullets. These are big bullets. It's like your 500 ml SM bonus drinking bottled water large.
And I think that even back then, sir, the Philippine Navy was pretty confident and pretty, they felt that they were capable of at least dissuading these vessels.
Yes. The Philippine Fleet, or the patrol force, when you are out on a mission, we are ready for anything. Like we're ready for anything. We're ready to defend the country. We're ready to engage enemies, local or foreign. That's our attitude. That's our mindset.
That's a good segue, sir, to perhaps like we'll come back to other questions later about the 90s and your issue, lessons you learned. but we're transition to the main bulk of our discussion, and so that later we can invite some of our defense watchers to talk. Where do you see the Philippine Sea now, sir? If you gaze into a map and you see the situation happening now, how does it compare to the 90s? And what do you think? How you rate our current policy with regards to deterring the Chinese fleet? Because certainly, like it's not the random fishermen, Kuno fishermen pretending to be a fisherman, or the members of the their maritime militia anymore. We're facing far more sturdier Chinese vessels. So, but get the lay of the land, sir. How is the West Philippine Sea now?
Well, the West Philippine Sea now will be is more active because one, you got a very noisy Chinese embassy in Metro Manila, and the Philippine government, our politicians need to deal with them on their level and leave the maritime operations, to our Philippine Navy. Number two, that territory, which is well defined in Philippine domain, it should not be a vacuum, meaning every week there should be a Philippine naval vessel or the vessels there. We don't have problems with the 9 naval detachments because we got people there, living there, manning it and defending it. So there's no problem there. The only problem is when our people will leave the detachments. We got 9, including Pagas Island, where we have the lone runway. Plus, this includes Ayungin Shoal, LT-57, Barko ng Republika ng Pilipinas, Sierra Madre. We should not leave these geographical detachments. Once we leave our detachments, then that's it. We will lose our territories that we have been guarding since the 1970s.
That's a good point you mentioned, sir, because there are certainly some individuals, not just from the pro-Chinese side, but also from the establishment in our universities here, who think that Ayungin is more of a symbolic rather than a strategic outpost. Do you disagree? Do you see that there's value in holding Ayungin Shoal or these other outposts?
Well, it's very important to us because that's the reason why we have been there since the 1970s. That's why our lolos from the 1970s, now retired Coast Guard and Navy people, we should not give up an inch of territory there. That's what the Chinese and the foreigners are waiting for. The map of all these countries there, these militaries, these navies and Coast Guard it's a no man's land. Who dares wins? If you leave your base, that's it. You lose it. If you stay in your base, you'll keep it, and everything that is under it, all the resources, the oil, petroleum, and gas, and deuterium, whatever is there, it's ours. So we are protecting and upholding what belongs to us. That's why we have been there since the 1960s, 1970s, 1980s, 1990s, up to now. May 9, 2024, we are still there. Hindi natin siya dapat tayo dapat mag-relax. We should not relax and be lax. That's what the enemy is waiting for. I'm referring to enemies.
Yes, sir.
Because they're not friendly to us.
I very much agree, and I think that's the same position that Teddy Locsin had before he became Secretary Teddy Locsin. It's basically whoever can drop anchor there and cook inihaw and stay there the longest, that's the person who owns the place. Alex, would you like to ask a question?
Touch base, a game of touch base. Can you describe to us, like, for example, you've Chinese in the 90s and seeing and hearing them now, did they basically change? Like, can you explain to us how Chinese how they think, how they deal with in the 90s you interacted with them, and then now did they change? That's my question.
Yes, in the 1990s, once you get
are they the Chinese? Yeah.
So most of them are old now. So so the people before there in that area, in the Kalayaan Island Group or Kalayaan Chain of Islands, these people they just announce or declare their ownership of a particular area by staying there on their boats, and that's how they mark it. And then they put something there like the muhon or the markers or a fisherman's shelter or a little hut or a little hexagonal building. That's the way they start it. They start with small things. It's like a Lego. They start with a small
Small
piece of
outpost.
Lego.
Yeah.
Start aim small,
Okay.
miss small. You aim small and you will miss small. So they start with small. So it's a small island. They build what they want to build. They put up a flag. It could be a Chinese flag or the Vietnamese flag. So they put up their flag there, and then they station soldiers or Marines or Coast Guard to be there, or the militia to be there. So it's a declaration of their occupancy by being visible there. It's like they won't be leaving very soon. They might leave. They don't have any more fresh water supplies or food, or somebody got sick that they had to evacuate back to the mainland to a hospital because he will die there if there's no doctor there. That's the same thing with us. We station our people, and most of them are from Puerto. Make our declaration. We build our base. It's a naval detachment. These are all naval detachments. So there are buildings. There are small buildings like one-story bungalow. It's the barracks for the soldiers. So they started improving that. During our time in the 1990s, we started hauling in. We started to put in the cargo coconut seeds or coconut seedlings and mangrove seedlings. So we did a little green revolution there. And that's why you see now most of our detachment are green, because we started planting in the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s. And we just keep on planting. That's why it's green. And there we also have islands that have our own freshwater deep well. And that's what the Chinese wants to get. There are islands in Philippine islands manned by our Navy. We got fresh water. It's deep well. We dug it and we can drink from it. You don't need a desalinator. That's what they want to get. It's fresh water. So they can stay longer in the area. But we're not giving that up.
I guess this is a
Because
great.
these are things that most people in Senate and Congress, they don't know about that. Even people in Malacanang. Sad to say, the people in charge of Task Force West Philippine Sea, most of them haven't been there. They're from the Army. They're not from the Navy.
Right.
And they're doing the job that Navy people should be doing. So these people, I'm saying this out loud, they don't have competencies in West Philippine Sea. That's why they don't know what to do. They don't have solutions. They are groping in the dark for solutions. These are Army guys.
I guess this
They
is a
haven't
great.
been assigned there.
Yes, sir. This is just a reminder to everyone now that we've gone 35 minutes, so I guess we can start opening the spaces up to anyone who's willing to speak.
Yeah, and interesting story. Yeah.
Before to
Can you hear me? Okay, so
yeah, go on.
hold on.
Let's go on.
Interesting story, Sir Lay. So basically, they started constructing small outposts, and then it has culminated into militarized islands. So what do you think happened from small outposts into militarized islands with an airport, with
Yes.
buildings,
And
and
most
stuff,
people
like a small
are like,
city?
how did we allow this to
Yeah.
happen?
Why do you think? Yeah. Why do you think we have arrived at this point with militarized islands?
I will say this term in Tagalog, napag-iwanan tayo kasi hindi nagdesisyon, decisive na, walang bubong. Got pictures to prove that. Pinabayaan nila yung West Philippines. Say, bakit? Because we are so busy with coup d'etats, with mutinies. We are so busy fighting in politics. We kick out the Americans, and then we have no alternative force protector for us. During those years, the United States Navy was always patrolling West Philippine Sea. And then when they were kicked out by the so-called nationalists or patriotic senators, President Cory Aquino didn't want the American bases to leave. But these senators, including Enrile, Estrada, and all these people, they kicked them out instead of talking to them properly.
And lastly,
And that's how we had a hard time patrolling that vast area called Kalayaan Island Group.
thank you, sir. Perhaps before we pass on to Talonsky, one of our watch listeners, and anyone, if they want to speak now, they can get up and ask questions. You mentioned, sir, that you're
Mhm.
not confident in the current Task Force West Philippine Sea and their actions. How do you think a person from the Navy would do it differently? What certain grand or small scale, like tactical or strategic decisions, do you think should be changed?
Yeah. I was reaching out to Jay Tariela at X. He won't answer my message to him. I told him, Jay, if you're really serious
Mhm.
to keep the West Philippine Sea, you need to talk to the we call them old hands, the seniors. These are the veterans. You get all these people who used to work before as operations guys. These are the patrollers of West Philippine Sea. Get all these people because they are still alive. They are just retired. They're not dead. Get inputs from these people how you'll be able to do this better without getting hit by water cannons every week. He won't answer me.
So what like tactical or strategic decisions would you be doing differently, sir? Say, you or the old hands were
Yeah.
given it.
Number one, these old hands, they know the maneuvers. They know how to move the ships, our ships, so we don't get bumped. We don't get water cannon, pressurized seawater by foreigners. There are ways to do the maneuvers there. It's a why do you allow these foreign vessels to come approach you, one at your left, one at your right, four water cannons hitting you at the same time? Why do you allow that? This should not be happening. You should do maneuvers. It's called escape and evasion, ENE. Do your deliveries of supplies, move in quick, and then move out fast. And then there's no drama on TV or on cable news that, oh, we got hit again. We need to stop doing that.
So let's pass it on to Talonsky, perhaps, if you've got any questions, sir.
Right. So thank you thank you so much for being with us on this space. Please follow WPS Defenders account. So please follow the host so to get up to date with anything West Philippine Sea related. So I'll pass on to Talonsky. Do you have a question for our special guest? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good evening to you all. I would
Hello.
like just to elaborate or ask further question about uh, the escape and invasion tactics that you have said. The problem I see is because the AFP and the DND are providing, oh no, the resupply vessel they are providing is the Oniza Mace, which are basically what? Wooden boats. And from what I see, their top speed isn't really that fast, like 14, 15 knots at best.
Yeah.
They cannot
Oh boy.
easily be evade. They can easily evade like the Coast Guard ships. As the Coast Guard ships are basically just the escorts. It's up to the AFP and the DND what resupply ship they are using. So that's the problem now. I'm seeing. As Ms. Sir
Yeah.
Taliela said on a previous X space, it's up to the AFP and the DND. It's not in the jurisdiction. They're just there to escort.
Yep.
So
And
that's
that's the mistake of the Republic. That's the mistake of the organization of our government. There are a lot of ways to do this without getting hurt, without getting hit by pressurized seawater. One of these days, one a Filipino will be killed because of these repeated water cannons. And then that's the time that people will again start pointing fingers. Why are we moving in so slow speed and maneuverability? The people there, we call them sea dogs. The sea dogs there, or the old hands, these are the professional, and these are your veterans. They know exactly what they need to do there. It should be fast. It doesn't need to be big. It could be a gunboat that runs at like 25 knots or 30 knots. We got those. We need to start using those. They may want to change the color to make it look civilian. It's up to them. But they should not be exposing people unnecessarily to a water cannon. As you see it, it moves. It's slow. If you see a water cannon moving at you, then you must be able to get out of the path of the water spout. What I see is they stop in the middle and then they get hit twice because you got a water cannon ship on left side, on the port side, and then another on starboard side, on the right side. That is not good. That is not good, and that is dangerous. They should go smooth and safe, and then go back to Puerto Princesa, or go back to Balabac, or to Quezon Municipality, or to Batarasa. So they should be smarter. They should work smarter, not work harder.
If
That's it.
anyone else has any more questions, just and you're too shy to speak, perhaps you can type them out or send them to us privately over DMs. Alex, you can keep reading questions from our pool if you want to continue.
Or the other thing that they could do, if they don't want to be hit, they use airdrops, air logistics systems. They
Yes,
don't want to use the slow moving boats.
The AFP said they were actively considering whether using airdrops in order to resupply these outposts. Well, what would these look like? So,
Yeah.
like helicopters, or what sort of equipment would you be using?
They could use both, whatever is available. And another one that I suggested, they should use the Catalina type of aircraft. You know, the amphibious planes? We used to have amphibious planes. It's called Catalina. They still land on water.
We should buy
They can
several.
land inside the lagoon if they want.
We should be actively getting used vessels like those, sir. You recommend?
Yeah. Yeah, I live in the British Virgin Islands in the Caribbean, and we call them sea taxis. We pay $50 to cross from the British Virgin Islands to the US Virgin Islands in 30 minutes. It's fast, it's smooth, and it can carry a lot of stuff, air cargo.
So whilst
They
we
should include this in their modernization, or they can borrow one from the United States.
whilst we're here, we also have another member of our local Philippine defense social media community, Mr. Phil Nebula. Sir Phil, you've got any questions for Sir Lay, Commander Lay?
Okay, good evening. I'd like to ask what kind of amphibious aircraft that should the Philippines acquire? There aren't really a lot of options.
Yes, sir. They could use we got what we call the Catalina type, Catalina aircraft, or we can use the Ospreys, or these are available. And if they're in for the modernization of the AFP, they should at least get two of this and start using them.
What
I
are
see.
We got foreign military sales, FMS funds. They should sit down with the Americans and ask them. We need to tell them we need to buy these amphibious aircrafts that can land on seawater and on lakes.
Are you familiar with the US-2 of Japan, that amphibious aircraft?
That's the one that also lands at sea, right?
Yes, that
With
one.
the floats underneath, right?
Yes, that one.
Yes. Or they can talk to Japan or South Korea, guys.
Okay, appreciate. I think that's my question for now.
Yes, sir.
Well, you mentioned the Catalinas, sir, and the Ospreys. How fast would that be? Like when they land?
How that will be fast.
Yeah, like when they land, sir, how quickly would it be to land an Osprey or a Catalina and then get the stuff into the Sierra Madre and then fly again to prevent it getting water?
They could do that. The flight from Puerto Princesa to there will be, let's say, similar to a C-130. 135, that's less than 2 hours. They will be there. Tapos it lands at sea inside the lagoon. Isa stop and mabilis lang yan. Anyway, they will do rehearsals naman eh. They will do rehearsals. They could do that in less than 30 minutes, unloading all those equipment. Siguro in 15 minutes, they're done.
If Phil and Talonsky doesn't have any questions for now, we can go to Alex for more questions.
I have one last question.
Oh, yes, go on.
Yes, sir.
I think there's a need to build a new permanent base or station at Ayungin Shoal, because BFP Sierra Madre is an old World War II hull, has been there for almost more than 20 years. And
Yes, sir.
how can we build a replacement? Could we use another ship, or should we prefabricate a base that can be rapidly installed?
This one, sir, the hull of this old ship, they won't last forever. They will start to become weaker because of the effect of the seawater, and there's no maintenance. One question that we should be asking first, sir, is number one, if they say that this is a commissioned and active vessel of the armed forces, then why are they not repairing it seriously. It's not yet decommissioned, but the way it's being used, it seems like it's decommissioned already. Kasi pag sinabi mo active yan, then every day they should be chipping away rust, brushing with steel wire the rust, and then start doing primer work, primer paint, and then paint gray over it once it dries. Ganon. They should hire someone, admiral, to do the thinking for them. Someone who has been there. We call them sea dogs. There are lots of sea dogs. There are lots of us who has been there. If they will not think Navy, so they
Yeah.
should stop doing that and start becoming more proactive. Hindi lang puro press releases ang ginagawa. Sir, they should be working on that ship, repairing it, and stop listening to China that they are not allowed to do something there. If you are the owner of that island, of that apartment, of that condominium unit, or that subdivision house, all the power that you have within your means should be done to protect and beautify your property right in the middle of that sea. I hope our friends in DNT are hearing this because sila yung nakaupo dyan ngayon. They should start working on that LT57 Ayungin Shoal. If they have plans
think,
to work on it, they should be opening this to the public and telling us what their intentions are.
I see, sir. I think Holland needs to be.
Sir Lay,
Yes, sir.
what else can be done in the BRP Sierra Madre other than reinforcing the concrete? What else can be done there to like strengthen our the post or BRP Sierra Madre? Do we need to
Yeah.
build more outposts surrounding it?
Yes, sir.
Or what else can
Number
be done in,
Sir,
in
we
those
start-
parts?
We should tell our people at DND in Malacanang, in the armed forces, we start with our brains, with our mindset, with our spirit, with our heart and our soul, that this is ours and we will do everything in our power and in our budget to keep that LT57 afloat. One, they should stop listening to China telling them what to do or not to do. If they plan to build something, like they said, they will build something in December, this is the time to build it kasi it's fair weather. Diyan, it's no typhoon. March, April, May, they wasted March, they wasted April. May, they will still waste. And then June, the typhoons are coming. They cannot build anything.
What are they planning to construct? What are they planning?
They
to
said a
construct?
permanent structure by I don't know when. They should tell us, they should tell the Filipino people, this is our plan, this is our master plan, according to CPM. We got naval engineers. They will know what to do and what will be the timeline.
To act as a devil's advocate, sir, some people might say, you would be broadcasting the plans to China, and then if you try sending cargo ships there with equipment, construction equipment, it would just get water cannon too. So how feasible would it be to? What would be the plan basically? How could we get the construction material out there to establish a more permanent
sir.
presence? By airdrops, or sir?
I think
Or
what we'll do is we hire or we rent or we buy, we own our cargo construction ship, container cargo ships dyan sa Manila, matataas. Hindi naabutin yan ng water cannon ng China kasi and put all the construction materials there to make a building and a helipad. Only one trip, only one voyage, all the construction materials and the cargo ship will stay there. Kahit i-water cannon siya ng China,
ramming actions, sir, it would be suicide for them to try and ram such a thing. It's huge, right?
yeah, it's a cargo tanker. They can't sink a cargo tanker unless they missile it.
So your plan basically, sir, is that we commandeer several of those large cargo or fuel tankers from Manila Bay, and then we send them out with like back and whatever. No, see, it's so simple, and yet it's so. But
Yeah.
some people say
We got Coast Guard Auxiliary. There are rich millionaires and billionaires member of the Coast Guard Auxiliary. They got tanker vessels. They talk and loan one or three to the Coast Guard and Navy, and they go there. They paint it white and put our red, white, and blue stripes because it's auxiliary.
some people would say, sir, this is a danger. This would be a dangerous escalation. It could provoke China to start building more stuff, and to start like
Well, that's what China wants us to think. That's how China wants us to think.
yes sir,
That
okay.
every time we want to do something for the benefit of the republic, China will say, "Oh, don't do that, kasi that will be escalating." We only thing we have to fear is fear itself. Let's start working there like true-blooded Filipinos. We don't have to be afraid of these Chinese people. This is our domain. I think it's time that we stand our ground
All right,
and
sir.
protect our motherland.
Are there any more questions?
Okay.
Sir Phil, go.
I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Anyone else? Alex, you've got more a question pool there. Do you want to start dipping in? Or Talonsky?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Sir Lay, like being on social media, how do we, knowing how Chinese, how they think based on your interaction with them in the past, how do we deal with the disinformation, the misinformation of China here on social media in the issue of the West Philippine Sea? Can you give us what uh, some of the most absurd arguments you've seen so far in their arguments?
When
How
I
do
was
you have
during my patrolling days at Calayan Island groups or Calayan chain of islands, once we get our mission order, we follow that to the letter. We don't care who our enemies are. I use the word enemy because they will try to harm my ship and to harm my crew. Do sa aming mission order, it always says there at the last sentence of the radio message, it says there, safety of personnel and the vessel is paramount at all times. That's the last statement at the bottom of the radio message. So we follow that and we survived. We didn't get killed. We did our mission. We boarded and searched them. We apprehended them and then we impounded their vessels doing illegal activities, illegal fishing. They don't pay taxes.
But something like
And they run away when they see us.
Commodore Tariella would say that this isn't the 90s anymore. Like now it's swarming like with dozens of vessels rather than the individual fishermen that you used to catch back then, sir. How would you reply to this?
Yes.
They would see these swarming tactics, and our Navy and Coast Guard would be far more hesitant to engage.
Yes, they're hesitant because they're scared. They don't know what to do. That's why.
What would
They do not know what to do.
you do in the face?
What do I do if I'm a Navy commanding officer of a vessel? I sell my yung battle stations. We are delivering food supplies and water to our troops. We hail them on the radio. Don't mess with us. And then we go straight there. But when I go there, I'm not alone as a vessel. I got, let's say, there's 3 of us. I will be the guy in the middle, and I got 2 escorts at my side, left and right. And we continuously tell them, we are on the radio, you must continually do this. An announcement. We are Philippine Navy vessel. We are delivering water supplies. And we just do the mission. If our goal, if the mission order from the president is, let's start building a shelter or a barracks or a naval detachment there, we don't say anything to China. We just go there with this big cargo ship. It's called an LD, a landing dock. It's big. The water cannon won't reach the top of the pilot house because it's so high. That's what they should use, but they are not using it. So we go there, deliver the equipment, and use the naval construction. You know the CBs? The Naval Construction Battalion or Command. These are our engineers. These are sailors, but they are all engineers, and they can build that in a month.
So
We go in fast, we get out fast. And they won't bother us. Why should they bother us? We don't bother them when they're building their missile launchers and their runways. Did we bother them? We didn't do anything. Why do we let them do their own constructions without bothering them? And here we are talking, should we be asking permission from them? Should we be scared of them? It starts in the mind. Guys, let's all grow a pair and show these people you're talking to the Philippine Navy. We are there to construct something. It's none of your business. If I'll give you a hypothetical situation. If we are Americans and we own West Philippine Sea, how would an American ship in West Philippine Sea, what do you think? Will that lone American ship allow itself to be water cannon? Yes or no?
I guess no, sir.
Let's think on the side of strength. Kasi we're all thinking on the side of weakness. Eh. Let's think on the side of strength and courage. Do you think a lone American vessel will allow itself to be hit by water cannons left and right? What do you think? Yes or no?
It would take evasion.
No,
Of course
they'd
not.
likely do maneuvers.
They will do maneuvers. That's how we should think also. We should stop using the word resiliency. Resiliency kasi ang resiliency paulit-ulit lang. Taon-taon binabagyo tayo tapos taon-taon ganun ang response natin. We should do resolve, RESOLVE. We should have the Filipino resolve. It's a permanent solution to a recurring problem. So a recurring problem every week, we get water cannon and harassed by these Chinese. Then drop the word resiliency and stop using resolve. Let's resolve this once and for all. What do? We tell them don't bother us because we are manning our battle stations. Don't send Coast Guard ship. Send the Navy. And then people will say, oh, we are escalating. Because that's what the Chinese wants to hear from us.
That's a hesitant.
That we back away.
I believe
That we back away. That's what they want to see. That's how they are annexing us.
I guess some people
They have annexed us already.
the criticism from Manila for that, sir, is that they'd be afraid that if we send gray ships in, the Chinese would send their own gray ships, and then it will become another.
Then they send their gray ships. That's what they want to do. Send their gray ships if that's what they want to do. 1990s, is it different from 2024? Of course. We were more courageous then than now. That's what is happening. That's why I'm telling them, grow up here and start behaving like maritime officers. Protect the country, because if we cannot do this during peacetime, how can we behave during wartime? Like what I said, one of these days someone will die because of that water cannon. Then how are we going to behave? What is our resolve? Are we going to be resilient? By water cannon, go press conference, file protest. That is resilience. But if you want to solve the problem, you should have that resolve. And that's a commander of a vessel of the Republic of the Philippines. Start sending the sea dogs. If you study the videotapes of what happened last week, plastic na upo, not going on a picnic.
Well, what if some people would say that we're scoring a significant political and moral victory? Well, I'm not agreeing with this, but I'm being devil's advocate that the more they water cannon us, the more terrible China looks bad, and we're resupplying naman. So what's the point of changing the current strategy?
The resupply is part of the job. That's why you have a ship.
Yes.
But what we do is a ship, don't let it get hit and destroyed and damaged. Sasabihin nila 2 million pesos. Why did you let yourselves to be hit in the first place? Why don't you do quick maneuvers? We see these officers, but why do you behave that way? Is that what you learn in school? Yan ang mindset niya. Don't think that way. Think as a defender of the motherland. Huwag naman ganun puro, di ba? And we have been cornered. We are cowering. Our tails are down between our legs because we are afraid of things that are not happening. We are afraid of the war. We are afraid of the rest back of the Chinese Navy. These are not happening. They should be transparent. How? Sit down, a conference, nandiyan kayo, nandun sila, and then tell them, can the United States Coast Guard or the United States Navy or the Australian Navy or the Australian Coast Guard or the Japanese Coast Guard join us in our next resupply mission and see if we will be water cannoned or not? And then they put, MDT, baka i-invoke ni MDT. You need to go there with your allies. You won't find out if you won't try your best. Do your best muna before you complain or be scared. Sit down with them. Okay, where's our allies? Would you join us this week on Wednesday or on Tuesday? Do you think we will be water cannon? Yes or no? We will find out.
All right. I think
That's how they should behave there.
with that very nationalistic sentiments, I think this is a great point in which we can start wrapping it up. Unless anyone has any more questions that we can talk about. Sir Talonsky and Sir Phil, you guys have any more questions? Well, I guess we're just go on, sir.
I think he does have a point. Maybe Coast Guard doesn't seem to have guts like in Navy, like the Navy Old brass.
I guess we can, whilst we close it up, we can start asking some of the more light questions to Sir, and maybe he can regale us with some of the, some of his best stories back in the 90s. Well, what was there any really memorable experiences that you had back then in the West Philippine Sea, the island chain, Sir? Was there any main experience that really sticks in your head that you still
Yes.
remember back to now fondly?
Yes, there was a Chinese militia ship. It's a steel-hulled militia ship. It's large. It's 100 feet long. And then what we saw, because they radioed us SOS, the Chinese are radioing us. So we were at Sabina Shoal. We are Sabina Shoal. Sabina Shoal is Philippine territory. The militia is there fishing. So we approached them. Again, I ordered man your battle stations, general quarters, man your battle stations, or battle stations. And then we found out that they have a problem. These militias, there are women there, the wives go with them. And there are children. And one pregnant woman, a Chinese woman who cannot speak English, is going to give birth. So we transferred them to our ship. She was already in labor. So we have a faster ship. So we took her to Puerto Princesa kasi wala kaming helicopter. So she survived and her child. So she gave birth in Westcom, Western Command Hospital. That's how we treat our Asian neighbors. We respect them without expecting anything in return from them. And the ambassador or consul from China came, and they were so happy that we took care of their citizens. That's one happy aspect of my patrol there. Imagine pointing a gun at people, and there are many women and children on these boats because they were told by their government to go there and occupy a Philippine territory, and this is how we are going to pay you and reward you. And she gave birth on Philippine soil, and I will never forget that. And I'm very proud of that because we show the best of Philippine behavior and character in times of peace and in times of difficulties. We are Filipinos first of all.
Life lessons really stuck out to you, sir, when you were out there on patrol, and that you take with you now?
Well, number one, you should not trust the environment that you are in because it's a conflict zone. It's a conflict zone. So you have to be ready all the time. Kaya there are no tarps, there are no tables, there are no karaokes, there are no armchairs. Well, it's all empty and nandun lang yung mga items you need for steaming. We call it steaming or cruising. Sa amin na Tarapal, walang mababali na mga bababasag na mga LED or TVs. Kasi cleared na yun eh. Ang tawag natin and merong people as that's how we were taught in school. And during Balikatan, that's how we were taught.
Were you on wartime cruising out there, sir, or peacetime cruising?
Oh yes.
So it,
Sa US na mga smuggler.
so you treated it as an active war zone, sir. That makes sense. So,
Oh yes. Kaya nga it's called no man's land. Try to buy a chart at Namria.
and lastly, sir, from me, you mentioned you're very active, sir, in your promotion on the West Philippine Sea. You said and we've seen pictures of you actively doing seminars around the country to promote awareness of the West Philippine Sea. Have you noticed, sir, the rise of the Chinese IOPS attempting to undermine our national morale? And how would you say the Philippines should be countering that? Because naturally, you're also in the information war games, mind game theater.
Well, several years ago, I already started writing letters to congressmen, governors, mayors, and schools, universities, colleges. And we tell them we will go to your area, to your office, to your school, to your gym, provide us with your students or listeners or participants, and we will do a 15-minute town hall meeting, and the rest of the hour will be question and answer. It's all about West Philippine Sea. It's all about the municipality of Kalayaan and what we can do in the future to develop that place and harvest and harness the resources, the oil and gas and the fish for our own people, how to develop ourselves and partake of the blessings given to us. Instead of not being able to partake of these blessings kasi we are all scared to do something there. Dahil merong doon, a big bad wolf with there's a big bad wolf there. So you know what we do with big bad wolf, right? You deal with the big bad wolf.
Right.
And that's what we teach our students.
What about the Chinese? What the I guess the last question would be: do you have any comments, sir? How is it going with the information game? Are we winning, sir, or are the Chinese actively trying to undermine our people, or
Well, the Chinese they like to do storytelling a lie. That's what I call it. They like to do storytelling a lie. If you say something patriotic about the country, the Philippines, and what our Coast Guard and Navy, our courageous men and women are doing there, then they will say something else to undermine our efforts.
Yes, sir.
That's how. Actually, they're not winning anything because they're not gaining any land. They are not gaining any oil. They're not harvesting any natural gas. But what I know is that they harvest fish and they don't pay us. So if they are harvesting our fish, are we collecting? Is the government of the Philippines collecting VAT every time that they haul in fish? Is it free fish? If it's free fish for the foreigners, why are Filipinos paying for fish? Di ba? Getting our resources without paying because we allow them. That's another job of the Coast Guard, law enforcement doon, maritime laws. They should be out there. There's no such thing as a vacuum sa West Philippine Sea. There's no vacuum there. If there's a vacuum mindset there, that's how we will lose territories.
And what's your last message, sir, to the Filipino people as it looks like we're in it for the long haul. It looks like this is going to be the new normal for the next few months, if not years. What's your message, sir, to our government and the people?
Well, the Chinese authorities, the People's Republic of China, will just drop their weight on us. They will just use the Philippines as a source for their economic problems, they need to feed how many billions of people every day. They need to go as far as Antarctica, as far as the Caribbean, as far as Africa, Indian Ocean, to get fish. And we are the closest one to them. That's why they thought of this 9 or 10 line illusion. They are getting resources from us for free because they can get away with it. Instead of allowing them that, how about this government be transparent? Kung yun ang sinasabi nila, transparency, how transparent are we when they take away our fish? Are we applying our customs law and taxes on them? Is BIR charging them for everything or anything? There should be a form of government existing there kasi the only way that we can show that we are effectively occupying our territories, our 9 territories, and then that Scarborough Shoal. I don't even use the word contested. I don't use the word contested kasi you are compromising with the enemy. Don't compromise with them. They are using a lot of words, contested, their protests. Don't fall for that trap kasi they see weakness. They can find holes.
Yes, sir.
As much as the archipelago is porous, they can go in and out like what happened in Bicol area. Too late the heroes sometimes are actually, we are so knee-jerkers. We are not proactive. We are knee-jerkers. It's too late the hero. That's why it's wrong. We should be on top of the game. Malinwa, lagi nakabantay. Walang pwedeng lumusot sa atin. We should change our attitudes first. If I were if I were in control or in management right now, if I'm the one handling it, let's have a open conference and invite all of you guys and let's do a brainstorm. What works and what does not work. If it doesn't work, then don't repeat that. Kasi doing the same thing that doesn't work over and over again, then something is wrong with us. We should change.
It's like a saying, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. It's called insanity.
True.
Right?
It's lunacy. It's lunacy.
So what you're proposing is a very proactive mindset that we should be open to other alternatives. Okay.
Yes, and tell the people, this is what we are going to do next week.
Strategic ambiguity. They say one thing, but their words does not align with their actions. So nobody knows what they really think, right? So
yeah.
I think we're doing the same thing as well. We're doing statements, but we're giving them no idea of what we're actually doing.
The only difference is the ambiguity of China. The only Chinese ambiguity is they do not own those 9 territories in Scarborough. They know that. So we should not be doing the same ambiguities kasi we are the owners. We are the owners of those 9
So that's
naval
clear.
stations,
Yeah.
naval terminals. Because that's as clear as what? As clear as sunrise. Kasi they know that they don't own the place. Di ba ganyan ang the squatters are so noisy, they're so loud. They are the loudest, the noisiest, and the most nakakainis. Pero yung real owner with the title, these are the quiet people. Because they know they own it already. And nobody can take it away from us. That's the difference between them and us.
And that should be our mindset, right? We own the place.
Yes,
And
we are
full
the
rights.
owners.
We
Tayo
are
yung legal.
So, knowing that, how do you respond to the propaganda, the misinformation being furthered by China here on social media, and it is being amplified or parroted by our own fellow Filipinos? How do you feel about that? China can employ Filipinos to spread their propaganda. How do you feel about that?
Well, that is the loss of these Filipinos being traitors. They're returning to Hanwha.
You can call them
Let's go.
These are traitors to the country. Why are they with the enemy? Why are they with the foreigners? With the foreign land grabber? We want to use the law, then we want to use the law, the full force of the law, then we call them as these are land grabbers, these are squatters inside our backyard. And they are the loudest, these so-called bloggers. And we know who they are, and we know where they are staying right now, and who's paying them. They will just die a natural death.
Where are they staying? In China?
In the US, in China, in Australia, in New Zealand. Out of the country, that's why they bark so loud.
There's one person who barks a
Okay,
lot,
so that's
from the
okay. That makes sense.
So
And then on next week, there is a second cruiser voyage to Bao de Masinloc. I will be there at Botolan, Zambales next week because I will be documenting it, and I got my team joining that group.
Is
We
it
want to
the
record everything.
100 Is it the 100 civilian boat initiative next week?
Yes,
Are you going to be there?
yes. I'm going there to
I might see
Botolan
you.
next. Yes, sir. We need to sit down, and I need to talk to the captain, so I will teach all the boat captains how to do E&E, escape and evasion. I don't want them to be hit by water
You should.
cannon.
Yeah, you should teach everyone like how
We'll do
to
a safety briefing for them.
Yes. Do you
We'll
think
do a
it's
safety
going to
briefing.
be-
What like
Yeah.
yeah, how they will
For everyone.
how will they perform or maneuver when they see a China Coast Guard or a militia? We need to educate our people how to protect themselves.
so thank you so
Even those people, me, like for example, if I am on the boat, I need to be taught how to outmaneuver being water
Yeah.
cannon. How do you escape?
Yeah,
How
you
does
can
one
outmaneuver
escape?
the water cannon
Yeah,
actually.
how-
Yeah.
It's like
You-
what? Do you bend?
Yeah, you stay
how
at
do
the
you say it?
fantail. You stay at the back of the Chinese Coast Guard ship. You're almost touching the hull of the you know the fantail, the back end of that Coast Guard ship. Stay there.
Mhm. Yeah.
Wow.
That's how you do it.
Oh,
Oh, so you are going to be there and
I will be
part
there.
of that initiative. Okay.
Sure.
The 100
Bring
civilian
your
boats.
action cam, bring your waterproof action cam so you can document it and see how it feels to be drenched in water in your own home. Noon, ang mensahe
that's-
doon.
do you expect it to be a successor, or like will it just be a mosh pit of water being thrown everywhere? Because some people
Well, Ivan is coming, right? You are coming,
let's
right?
go. So like how do you
Yeah.
expect it to be?
And we'll teach them how to do some actions, some evasive actions. We'll have to talk to our boat operators and to the kapitan ng barko.
But do you think there's a good chance it will be very successful, sir? The mission.
Hopefully, expect
Yeah,
more,
the
expect
objective,
more confrontation with the foreigners.
And this time it's 100 vessels on our part. So as we wrap it up, sir, any last words, sir, for our listeners and for the Filipino people in general?
Yes, don't give up the ship. Don't give up the ship.
That's a very short,
Don't give up the territories. As simple as that.
a very short and pithy remark, sir. So I think this is
Yes, sir.
a very good time to wrap up. As we wrap up today's episodes, on behalf of me and Informed PH, we'd like to thank our incredible team of advocates for joining us in this conversation, especially the people who decided to ask questions like hello.
We will see you in Botolan, Zambales.
Of course, sir, and you should start documenting it. And let's work together to to be more proactive in speaking on behalf of the West Philippine Sea, countering Chinese propaganda, and ensuring that the West Philippine Sea remains a symbol of our national sovereignty for generations to come. And thank you for all for.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Look at the mirror.
Good night.
Just look at the mirror tonight or after this talk. Look at the mirror and tell the person you see at the mirror. You ask that person, how would you deal with this water?
Yes, thank you. So we'd like to say again, thank you.
Hello.
to our-
But the thing is, if I look in the mirror, I just want to punch.
Bro.
There's outrage,
Ayaw.
di ba?
Yeah.
There's, internalized outrage, right? You just want to punch the mirror.
Scandal.
So thank you, Sir Lay, for of course being with us on a Friday night. You should be like doing some
Yeah.
more important stuff, but here you are in this space, sharing us your experience, and we thank you for it. And it's important that your story is being shared here,
Yes,
so
sir.
that more people will understand and of course appreciate the discussion about West Philippine Sea and why we need to fight and uphold our sovereign, what we call our nation's sovereignty over those parts of the West Philippine Sea. So thank you so much to our listeners for tuning in. Don't forget to, of course, follow our account.
Yeah.
It's called WPS Defenders.
So
Please follow
Yeah.
Ivan and everyone here
So-
in West Philippine Sea.
Uh-uh.
And
So-
Yes, sir.
So next time,
Okay.
maybe we could talk about a specific solution. What are we going to do specifically that we could give also and
Yes,
share
that
to
would be a
our
good
government? This is
point.
what we can do.
The next
Specifics na. Specifics na kung anong pwedeng gawin.
We are going to try and get hopefully more members of the government to appear in our spaces, and perhaps we can invite you
Oo.
to asking
Kasi I will not just give my ideas. Tapos the people will listen and then nothing happens. We should be inviting these people in authority and with the budget and sasabihin natin, ito yung specific, sir. Oh. Gagawin nyo ba to o hindi? Sayang yung idea.
would like to say hello to the local spies.
Yeah.
Listening to
Yeah,
us.
hello to Colonel Li Zong at the Defense Attaché of the Chinese Embassy in Dasmariñas.
And thank you for listening. Thank you. Alex, you want to close it? All right, Alex, perhaps